All right, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We're live, pal. Now, for those of you watching on the video feed, you'll see a little bit of a different setup for us. Uh, our producer has the day off, so he is not here. I have to do this by myself, and when I have to do it by myself, it's not going to be the best, but at least we can still record. So, Andrew Zarian, what is going on?
How are you? It is WrestleMania week. Does it feel like WrestleMania week?
It actually does feel WrestleMania week after last night's angle with The Rock and
Dude,
Cody
I
and
2 weeks in
Roman.
a row, dude.
Yeah.
I've watched all of Raw live, like in its entirety. No exhaustion. What did they have great phenomenal matches on that show? Not really, but you know what? They told a fantastic story from beginning to end.
So we're gonna get into some WrestleMania stuff. Now,
Yeah.
originally, my idea for this show was we were gonna bring on Cameron Hawkins from he's written for The Ringer, he writes for Sean. He's got his own podcast stuff. Unfortunately, I think he is traveling to Philadelphia in a car right now. So I told him that maybe we'll have him on next week so he could give us the lay of the land of how
Yeah.
Philadelphia was. And instead, it's just going to be me and you. But I wanted to mention there's a great piece out by Billboard.com about Wale Mania. And I tell everybody when it comes to this stuff, when it comes to WrestleMania weekend, Wale Mania is my favorite event. And I'm always bummed out when I can't go now. My wife's birthday being on WrestleMania weekend usually means that it's probably not in my best interest to go to WrestleMania weekend anymore. But
Yeah.
that was my favorite event, and I went to 4 of these things. So there's a great piece out there. Check it out, read it. It sort of describes the origin story of it, but it reminded me of a story. I don't know if I've even told you this story before. So Wale Mania 2015. I believe this was the first one. It is in Santa Clara, so obviously really close to me.
This is the one that Dave went to, right?
This is the one that Dave went
Oh,
to.
yeah.
And
Nice.
there's that great photo with Dave Meltzer, Court Bauer, and Wale in the same photo. And so in reading this piece that Kazim and Wale together are kind of behind the whole thing. Court Bauer, I think, helped with the promoting or something because that's why I was involved.
Yeah.
And so reading that piece, I was reminded of this story, which is Rey Mysterio was going to the event and he was late. Like it's on the airplane, flies in. Who's picking up Rey? Like there's this chaos. And I was almost the person who was going to pick up Rey Mysterio.
That's great.
And so I had totally forgot about that. But in reading the piece on Wally Mania, they mentioned that story. I was like, oh yeah, I was at some point I was going to go. Now, there's a couple other stories I'll quickly tell, and then we'll get to our Mania stuff. So, my buddy, aka the Dames, he wanted a photo with Mick Foley's daughter Noelle, and I don't know if you've been. I mean, they're from near you, so I'm assuming you've seen them out and about before.
Yeah, a bunch of times. Yeah, I met Noelle like a few times at like the Brooklyn shows or at the Garden. She's always around. If it's like a local show and she's in town, she's always there.
And so Dames wants to get a photo with Noelle. So, we tap Noelle on the shoulder. Hey, can, we get a photo with you? She's like, sure. She's really nice. She turns around and all of a sudden, who must have some like sixth sense? None other than Frank the Clown. He's like, oh, some dude wants to take a photo with Noelle. I'm going to jump into this photo. So he just like jumps into the photo. And I do this thing with my buddy's camera where I go from framing it. I'm framing it. Frank the Clown comes in and my frame goes like this. And I eliminate him completely from the photo.
Was he in like full gimmick or was he like a normal man?
He was in full gimmick.
Yeah, full gimmick.
Complete and full gimmick.
That must have been fun for her, for Noelle, to go out with our clown.
But it was wild. Like I just have this real memory. So they kind of tapered off this area where the wrestlers and the media were kind of hanging out. And The first time I saw Carlito, like the buff version of Carlito, I was
Super
like,
Jack
holy
Carlito.
jeez, this dude is jacked. And I just remember vividly, like music is blasting, Wale's doing his concert, and Dave Meltzer and Chris Hero are trying to just talk wrestling above all of the
At
noise.
Wale
Like,
Mania.
as close to each other as you can possibly get so that they could hear each other speak. But yeah,
Oh my God.
Wale Mania is a blast. And you should go if you have a chance, but I think it also sells out pretty quickly. So that may not be as easy, but hopefully we can get Cameron on next week and he can tell us all the stuff that is happening that is happening this weekend, and he can let us know what was the good stuff. All right, before we get to the WrestleMania thing, one more thing. Did you hear this Clash at the Castle thing is in Scotland?
I thought you were going to go into on Tony Khan's attack on the sweetest man ever, John Alba. I thought that's what you were going to talk about.
Well, you heard me. I don't know if you heard me mention that on Wrestling Observer Radio.
No, did you mention it?
Yeah, I was just like, why would Tony reply to John's tweet to diss Bischoff for?
I know. You know,
and I know if John's involved, that show is not going to be a bad show because John's a great host. So, and John has credibility, whereas Bischoff maybe not so much.
So listen, I went on the show. Okay, I did that show with John and Bischoff. All right, I had a great time. Eric was nothing but a tremendous host. He obviously has his issues with Dave and he has his issues with Tony. And quite obviously, both of them have issues with Eric.
He has his issues with the truth, which is the real problem.
Whatever. Yeah. There's a lot that he's correct on. Tremendously. A ton of it. But there's also a lot that I don't agree that he's right on. But that's fine. And John's job on that show was to be that voice to tell Eric, like, hey, Eric, listen, one specific one, I don't remember the exact conversation, but John was defending talent. And he was saying, we want talent to make money, and that's why it's good for us to support AEW and for AEW to exist. And Eric was coming off like, it's not about the talent, it's about the company, it's about making money. Two very different philosophies. John has a very different thought process than Eric, and Eric is a corporate guy that thinks about the bottom line in the business end, and forget about the rest.
Okay,
I always thought it was a captivating conversation.
Can I interrupt you then and there? Okay. If Tony Khan was losing hundreds of millions of dollars, Eric has a point.
Of course, yeah.
When Tony Khan is not losing hundreds of millions of dollars to the point of where the company goes bankrupt or they're getting pushed off of television, then I don't think Eric has a valid point, because what is he arguing? He's arguing that, you need to look at the company's bottom line and you can't take care of the wrestlers and this and that. And it's like, no, you can actually do both.
You can do both. Yeah. Listen, I found their conversations to be really interesting. Partially because I really like John. I consider him a good friend. I talk to him off air, and I love to see his career expand and grow. So for me, it's I get a kick out of seeing my friends in successful positions.
Yeah.
The same goes for Will Washington and getting that gig with AEW. Absolutely. I will champion you. I will support you. I love to see people starting from nothing, right? And both of those guys are
wrestling.
Yes. In wrestling, right? Not celebrities, not married into something. Maybe Will's situation is a little bit different, but I think for Will, it was truly 100% based on his abilities and not nepotism in any capacity.
Connection, man.
Listen, and same goes for John. And John is a hustler, and he works hard, and he's here in New York. He's on SNY at late night at 11 o'clock here in New York. It's great to see my friends in successful positions. But, and Tony knows John, and Tony knows what type of person John is. I thought it was unfair. 4 a.m. tweet attacking John's post, and John has to eat the shit now that everybody's commenting on. Hundreds of comments against him. I didn't think it was fair. But I did want to say, it is a very, it's WrestleMania week, but between that attack on John and the Punk conversation from yesterday, which I know you're both going to. I don't want to derail you. But I did want to bring up John because he's in the chat room while we're doing this, and it came fresh on my mind. I thought it was a little unfair. a little unfair of attack for John, because John was not just a layman just nodding and saying yes, you're right, Eric. He was not combative, but they were having a healthy discussion, and
Yeah,
that was every show.
I mean, it's Tony taking a shot at Bischoff while
Yeah.
not understanding that this also means one less payday for Alba not having this show. Now,
Yeah.
John's going to do something else, and he'll and
do great
he'll
at
have
it,
more
whatever it
free
is.
time to do it. But that's the part where I was like, okay, Tony, you probably need to think this one through a little bit. We're not doing content. In some instances, we're doing content because we enjoy it. Like you and I, we do this show mostly because we enjoy each other's company. But some people are doing the content because it is, helping with their earnings. And if that is the case, then I don't think he should be celebrating in anybody's, loss of a show or whatever.
Yeah.
Even if it was directed at Bischoff, like he should have thought
listen,
that one through.
I get Tony's beef with Eric totally. I would feel the same exact way if that was me. But he also likes. I know that he likes John. I know that he doesn't have a problem with John. I just think that it was a very mixed way to take a dig at Eric. That was it.
Yeah.
Listen, and you know what? It happens. And I just felt that I felt bad for John that he was caught in that crossfire.
Yep. I very much understand. I know our own Josh Nason was caught in the Tony Khan tweet crossfire before, and I was like, man, Josh didn't do anything to deserve this.
The way that morning when I saw it, I was like, wow. So John actually texted me early in the morning, and he wrote something along the lines of, gotten yelled at by any billionaires recently? This today or whatever it was. I said, not this week.
Exactly.
I mean, last week probably, but not this week.
See, this is why I like doing this show with you, because we often talk about the media stuff, and it hadn't crossed my mind because I had talked about it with Dave last week, but Dave didn't really go into it as in depthly as we just did right now. But so thank you for bringing that up, because it was something that I wanted to talk to you about. I just completely forgot because it is WrestleMania weekend. Okay, this Clash at the Castle thing. So Clash at the Castle being announced for whatever, like that there's no real news there for us. But it's in Scotland, correct?
It is in Scotland.
And who is their biggest star with Scottish heritage?
Oh, my namesake, Drew McIntyre.
So this dude's got to be signed, right? Or at least verbal.
Why would he not? Why would he not want to sign?
Right. I just find it fascinating because he's going to be the big. I mean, the WWE is global and worldwide, but he's the homegrown star going home to Scotland. This got to be tremendous for him. This has got to be like everything that happened the first time when he lost that match to Roman a couple years back. Yeah. They're going to have to rewrite it for this one, because this has to be like the biggest thing for Drew McIntyre's career in this show.
Yeah, I mean, it's his show, right? It's the moment for him. And where are they doing it? They're doing it at the Hydro?
It's in an arena. At least as far as
it's not that large. No. I think from what I remember, it's like I think that it's like between 12 and 14,000. So I mean, listen, is it him and Punk in the main for that? Is that what you do?
Yeah, you know what I like about this as well, because now the people or the fans who believe that AEW had a shot at Drew, and maybe they did have a shot previous to, the last 4 or 5 months or whatever. But one of the things that people would bring up is, we have this Wembley show, like Drew McIntyre, I'm sure would love to be on this Wembley show. And WWE just like, well, we have this other show too that we can just, coronate him as the giant star of the show. So I find that whole thing pretty fascinating. But all right, let's talk about WrestleMania. Now, give me your thoughts on last night's angle where it was Seth against Solo, Bloodline rules, Jay and Jimmy come out, The Rock comes up. The Rock just throws Jey Uso around like he's a rag doll. And then The Rock comes out. Roman comes out as The Rock is about to go through the table, and Rock and Roman, they beat the dog
Oh my God.
excrement out of Cody and Seth, whipping them constantly with this belt. And I know there's a way to do that belt thing, like when you hit the ground and maybe it doesn't really hit the guy, but there were moments where they were not hitting the ground with the belt and they were just whipping these dudes. It was insanity. What did you think about the whole thing?
I thought it was great. I thought it was an unbelievable. Listen, there are different types of wrestling that people like. I think most people know the type of wrestling I'm into. But when you have a good angle, you really don't need to do much in ring. Fantastic. Dwayne's great. Everybody in their role is fantastic. The bloodline looks like $1 million. That opening segment, I really liked. They did a great job at teasing that you may see The Rock and Seth Rollins in a match, which I didn't even consider that for the future. But I mean, listen, I think it's fascinating for sure. They've really changed the direction of this company, and it's refreshing. I'm watching a 3-hour show. Even if it's an AEW show with great matches, even if it's a pay-per-view for WWE with great matches, it's long, 3 hours is long, especially on a Monday. I was able to get through that show with no problems.
I thought it was fantastic. There's one thing. Now, this is stuff that I pay attention to and maybe not a lot of people pay attention to. But I was like, man, I wish we had prime version of Jim Ross calling this thing. Cuz Cole went silent for the most part. And McAfee, now here's where McAfee as an announcer, his credibility is kind of shaken in moments like this because he's such a goofball. Now you have a really serious wrestling moment.
Yeah.
And his oohs and ahs almost sound comedic. If we had Jim Ross talking about they're beating Cody like a rented mule and
government mule, right?
And screaming, where's the administration? Like, who's coming out here to, why is the bloodline allowed to just beat up? We needed that in that angle, and I think it would have been an all-timer. But Cole, I don't know what Cole was even doing. He was like maybe trying to just let the crowd take over or something. Like he didn't hype it far enough to be like that all-time moment for me.
Yeah, I thought it was, listen, for what they were doing a year ago, what they were doing 8 months ago, 6 months ago, and what they're doing today, it was so refreshing to see. It's different. It's a very different approach. The adultness has been brought back. And this is all, I mean, they know exactly what they're doing. And have you noticed how much they're censoring now, right? And not just The Rock, and it's not just Dwayne. It's other segments too. It's with Punk. It's with whoever else. That is by design. It's not for the pop for the moment. It's to tell you, guys, we're going to Netflix. This is on the internet now. It's not on television. It's not linear. We're going to be able to do a little bit more stuff there. And they're doing a good job at making people think that they are going to be TV, whether or not they are TV 14 or whatever they're going to be. They're doing a great job at telling you, the audience, this edge that you're seeing is something that's going to continue when we leave here. So I think just very, very smart decision-making on their behalf.
Okay, here's a question for you. Have you heard that Netflix is going to allow that? Because we had Dave on, and Dave said he was going to look into it. And when I asked him again, he said it's sort of undecided at this point.
In what sense?
As far as Netflix changing the rating.
Oh, no. 100%. Dave is right. It is undecided right now, but they are, it's the conversation is happening. I can tell you that. Like it is, but this was a prime thing that they wanted to do 2 years ago when I reported that story that blew up.
Mm-hmm.
They, I'm not going to say who I sat down with. You know the story, but I went to dinner with key people there. And they were like, you were 100% correct. And it was just USA jumped the gun on this story, but this is something that we want to do. Not so much that we bring back the blood and the violence and the cursing, which they have, shockingly, but it's it's more to allow them to not have that issue that they have on Fox, where every second that crowd is chanting "Holy yes" or whatever, they're dumping it out. You know, the
Yeah,
one
no, it's terrible audio for
it's
sure.
terrible. It's terrible, but that's not by design. That's aggravation for them when they do that on SmackDown. But everything that you're seeing on Raw with the censoring, it is all by design. It is made that way to keep the intrigue up. Listen, think about it this way, right? When you were 13, 14 years old, because that is the core audience that this company has built the last 8 months. I'm all these years, dude, in covering wrestling. I haven't had this many like of the kids in my family excited about wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously they know Roman Reigns, John Cena, they're into it a little bit, but now all the kids are hyped. The girls are into it. The guys, like, you know, I have a big family, and seeing their reaction tells me everything I need to know. They're creating that intrigue that was created in 1996, 1997, 1998 with, you know, I'm a little younger than you, with my generation. It's starting again. I'm not saying go all the way. We're not going to see bra and panty matches. We're not going to see, you know, live sacrifice. Maybe we will see the live sacrifices. I don't know. It's Netflix. You know, they could do a Stranger Things crossover. It could get wacky. But when I saw it, so I spoke to, you know, I sent a text message. I'm like, is this what you guys are doing? He goes, yep. It's to create the what if this happens on Netflix. Brilliant. Great. Love it.
You know what I would like to see on Netflix? But the thing is they're going to be on USA with the other shows. So unless they change the rating for SmackDown in October, we may see some of the similar things. But I would like to see on Netflix just the freedom to go there when they have something that necessitates it, right? Because with The Rock and like, yeah, sure, that necessitates it. But do you know what my fear is for CM Punk to come out and just start dropping F-bombs for the sake of F-bombs and it not really being a reason to go edgier. It's just because they can. I would like to see the freedom, but I would like to see them have a lot of discipline in only going there when they need to go there.
Yeah, I mean, when you need to do it, it's fine. You know, overuse, it doesn't go anywhere. It just you become numb to it. Listen, this is when WWE's hot and they're firing on all cylinders, it is bad for everybody. Everybody else is doomed. Just how it is.
So, and that's a second CM Punk tease. We are going to get to that, the Ariel Helwani stuff. But before we get there, I want to go over these matches for WrestleMania. We won't go over all of them, but I want to go over the big ones, and I want to get your temperature gauge on your feeling going into this match. Give me, it's a hot match, it's a cold match, or it's kind of in the middle. It's a lukewarm match. And let's start with Becky and Rhea. Where are you with your anticipation for this one?
I love Rhea. I think the build with Becky has been weird.
Yes. I kind of agree with that.
I don't know why. I don't know, like, just I feel like Becky's not as into it.
That's an interesting one because I feel the same way, but when I talk to other folks who really, really enjoy her, they don't seem to think that there's anything changed about her character. Now, from where I sit, it feels like Rhea has become what Becky was previously. And Becky may have taken a step down from being the top woman on the Raw brand. I feel like Rhea is kind of humming on all cylinders, and Becky is a little. She's not. Her promos are not as whip smart as they used to be. She used to have these fantastic one-liners. She's standing up against everybody, and it does feel like a step down from that. And for that reason, to me, I was going to say lukewarm. I'm kind of lukewarm on this one, even though I was super excited when the build happened.
Yeah, I would say lukewarm for sure.
Okay, next one. Gunther and Sammy. They went straight up Rocky 3 with us last night with Chad Gable and Sami Zayn. Chad Gable. Now, let me tell you about this Chad Gable guy and just the actor that he is. He played Apollo Creed and Adrian in the same segment, of trying to get Sami Zayn fired up and into it. He played both characters. What range that Chad Gable has. Where are you with Sammy and Gunther?
I'm into this for sure. I had cooled off on it a little bit, only because I don't want to see Gunther lose, but I also hate seeing Sammy lose.
That is your conundrum right there. I think that is the focus. That is what they need to start building. Is Gunther's unbeatable, but nobody wants Sammy to lose, and maybe that's kind of where they're going. But I think that's a fascinating aspect.
Or hey, maybe Gunther will lose, and they come up with a nice program with that. I both are tremendous, and I like both of their work. I think for Sammy, he was at the peak of his career a year ago, and you can't compare it. What the program he was in last year versus this year. He kind of got lost after that. The tag stuff didn't really do much for me. But I'm excited for this. This is a thumbs up.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm there. It's not a full 100% thumbs up because I thought that they should have been doing this stuff with Sammy weeks ago. Like it's almost like they decided at the last minute they were going to go forward with it, and it feels rushed. But Gunther and Sammy are going to have a fantastic match. Could be a night one show stealer if they give it time. All right, I'm going to skip through some of these other matches, but Jay versus Jimmy. I feel like last year had they done this match, it would have been hotter than it is right now.
I don't think they built it right. I think what ended up happening is that bloodline focus became so heavy on The Rock and on Cody. Even Roman took a little bit of a backseat here. So everybody was affected by it. I think that's the bigger story here, is how it just got overpowered by a better program.
Yeah, I agree. I also don't know if I need to see these guys fight. What are the stakes in this match? Just Nothing. Who's the better brother?
Yeah, who's the better brother?
I don't know. Yeah, by the way, did you see the Roman Reigns A&E documentary?
I haven't seen it yet.
I'm not finished.
Okay,
but,
how was it?
It's interesting. I mean, there's footage that we would have never seen otherwise. There's like footage of all three of them as kids, and you can see the twins together as like 9-year-olds. It's actually kind of cool. But like, I see that A&E doc, and it's like, oh, I want to see the Usos together. I don't want to see them apart. Like, what the hell are we doing? So I'm kind of cold on this one. Where are you with this one?
Half and half. I think they're gonna have a tremendous match, so it keeps me more intrigued in it. But I think the build got just overpowered by all the other stuff going on in that company.
All right, Jade Cargill showed up on SmackDown. Bianca Belair, who seems to be, she's probably above this feud for a WrestleMania match, but she was kind of the person, the star without a big match. It's Bianca and Jade and Naomi against Damage Control, Dakota, Asuka, and Kairi Sane. I think adding Jade Cargill to this match changes the dynamic from sort of cold to at least lukewarm and a little bit more bubbling, because I just want to see Jade. I just want to see what she's going to do.
It's also WrestleMania. You want to get everybody on the card, right? That's the other thing here. So, you got 2 nights. You got, whatever amount of matches each night. You want to kind of get people. This is what everybody works to. And I think to keep Bianca off, or, off it because she didn't have a program would be ridiculous. I think adding Jade changed everything. I'm intrigued into it now. The program, it's cold. It doesn't really mean much, but to have Jade there, it's going to build to what's next. And I think that's good. That's healthy for them.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll skip the tag match, the Latino World Order tag match, and we'll go straight to the Bloodline versus Cody and Seth. Now, I'm going to say this because you on this show have mentioned that you've been down on this match being the focal point of the weekend.
Can I go backwards for a second? There's another match that I'm really intrigued in.
Oh,
and it was a last minute thing. AJ Styles and LA Knight.
Okay, that's a night 2. We'll get to
night two. Okay.
Yeah.
We're only doing night 1. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought it was night one. It's not night one?
You know what? It could be. I'm looking at
Maybe I'm
Wikipedia.
wrong.
Wikipedia. I know a lot of people don't trust Wikipedia. I like Wikipedia, but they could have flipped stuff, and they may still flip stuff
Okay.
until
All right.
the weekend.
Yeah, because there's only 6 matches right now for night 2.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you're right. Okay, sorry. Let's go to the main.
Yeah, where are you now? You've had a few weeks to let it marinate.
Okay, I'm gonna go backwards. I'm gonna say I'm very into this match.
Okay.
I still believe what I would have wanted to see in a perfect world was The Rock and Roman. We're gonna get that eventually.
Yeah.
But they listen, it's not about me, right? It's about creating more programs. They extended that match by another year, maybe. So they have a mega main event next year if it happens, and they're still hot like this. It's going to be even bigger. It was a convoluted way to do it. Punk had to get hurt in order for this match to happen. Cody had to come out of the picture and go back into the picture for this match to happen. There were a lot of moving parts, but they did tremendous with it. I mean, from that initial moment where The Rock whispered in Cody's ear whatever he said, and Cody gave up that spot to that. I guess what was that? It was a scrum. What would you call it?
The press conference.
That crazy press conference that they had. From that.
What about Tony Khan just changing the whole meaning of scrum?
I know he redefined what it means.
It's a press conference, and I have people in my real life calling it scrums. I'm like, it's not a scrum. Yeah. You guys know what a scrum is? Okay, go ahead. Sorry, that's just my own beef with it.
From that press conference to today, they have done a total 180 for me.
Yep.
And I think it has more to do with the fact of what a strong performer Dwayne is. I mean, that final boss shit is working. It's really working because he is.
He is the final boss.
This man is from that is who we are all going to look like in 2,000 years. We're all going to be The Rock's cousin. All of us. It's the future of humanity. We're seeing he really is the final. I mean, he's so big. He's so big.
Giant.
He's gigantic and perfectly tan. And I mean, he looks incredible. And to have him out there, it really did. It changed my entire, and that performance that he's put on and this new character of his, it's so well done. And listen, and I was someone that was not for it, right? It's great. It's fantastic. This is the great thing about wrestling. Things get hot and then they cool off and they get hot again and they do something really awesome. It's great to see that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And for someone that loves professional wrestling, because it is an art, it's not just having a match. It's an art form to be able to, have The Rock out there at 50 years old and, creating this tremendous opportunity for so much talent on that card to be in front of even more people and more fans are into you and they're buying your merch because they're going to these shows. It's such an asset for them. My big question is, how the hell do they do this on Saturday and Sunday? How do they, whatever they're doing, what do they do?
Oh, meaning who wins and all that stuff?
How they win, who gets involved, is Austin coming out? Because I mean, it's pretty. I mean, to me, it's pretty clear.
That'd be awesome.
I mean, I'm dying for that face to face between Steve and The Rock.
Well, I think Steve is very smart about this, and I can't imagine he wants to be on the same show that The Rock is. It like 2 years ago when he was in LA or Dallas, I'm sorry. And The Rock wasn't on that show at all from what I remember. And so that's why Steve's like, okay, I'm on. You need me. You don't need Dwayne.
They did 30 together. Didn't they do 30
Yeah,
together?
But that was kind of an open with all three of them and Hogan and it. Yeah, okay, because it's WrestleMania 40, you're thinking maybe we get that'd be interesting.
Is Hogan coming out for the save?
Dude,
did you see his promo? He cut a Yappa Pie strap match promo on Twitter. I'm not even kidding you. He did the whole thing with the belt, and he goes, the Yappa Pie strap match. He did this whole entire thing, which was fantastic. I see Austin for night 2.
Okay.
Shenanigans. We'll get to night 2, but whatever.
What if he's a special guest referee?
Love that.
That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
Um, I'm with you. This is hot. It's some of the
It's
best work
hot.
that they've done at the main event angle. Just not just the angle, but the star power, like you said. Now, did you watch this week for what I was talking about last week? And Rock using his thigh to push up from the ground, using his thigh
Oh,
to
you did one of these? Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Yeah, I
like,
saw it.
I have bad knees.
Yeah.
I know what that is. Like that stuff kind of scares me a little
But
bit.
listen, he could just he could be very careful.
Yeah.
I would do the same if I was a 53-year-old at the size of him. God forbid I blow out something now. Standing up, you could blow something out and you're done. Roman almost had a bad slip. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see it.
He slipped on when they went to the outside
Uh-huh.
and Cody was going to do the rock bottom, whatever he was going to do on Dwayne. When how they have the cover
Yeah.
for he put his foot down and he slipped on it, and I was like,
I missed
oh
that.
no, oh no, that would be a nightmare.
Yeah, that would be bad. That would be. And look, Seth is the one who had the bum knee, and he's out there wrestling solo on the Monday before.
Yeah.
What do you think they do anything on SmackDown, or they just let this be the lasting memory going into the match?
I mean, do they need to?
SmackDown is technically the go home show.
And they're all there. I
They're
mean,
all
maybe
there.
something, but I don't know what else they could do.
They could say that Nick Aldis and those guys decided that they cannot be in the building together because we want to make sure the match happens on Saturday. And then maybe you have them just cut old school backstage promos on each other. That would be cool.
Love it.
Okay, let's go to night 2. So night 2, Seth and Drew. I'm in. I think it's going to be interesting on what happens with Seth in this bloodline match.
Yeah, but you know what? You know what built me for that? Not Seth and Drew. Drew and Punk.
Yes.
That's what built that. Like, I'm into this match because of that other feud that's happening here out of nowhere.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, that has been tremendous. And Punk is going to not be a referee; he's going to be an announcer, a guest commentator. They might as well just bring Ariel Helwani to the table as well. Just get everyone on the announcing on that show. But yeah, that's I think it's a tremendous thing. But I think how Seth does in the tag match on night 1 will be interesting because you don't want him to look like an absolute jabroni in that match and then have to defend his title. Though, if he does get beat up a little bit, that could play into the finish of Drew winning.
Yeah, I think that's a nice way out. This guy was hurt coming into this. He got wrapped into this crazy feud. Cadillac Carson in the chat room. A great point. $4.99.
Yeah.
Do you think Damian Priest plays a role? I think that's
a fantastic point.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic point that I didn't even really think about. Yeah, because the Judgment Day's on night 1.
Mm-hmm.
So he could cash in on night 2. I don't know, man. I don't know how you do this with him because it's not like 3 more months, 4 more months, and there's going to be another briefcase.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to figure this thing out.
So I'm more curious. Okay, so if it was Punk and him, right?
Yeah.
Because that would have been the match.
Yeah.
It would have been Punk and Rollins.
Punk and
Was
Seth.
Punk winning? Because he would have main evented night 1.
It's a good question.
Right? So would it have been Drew costing him? Would it have been someone cashing in? Does he win the title? And look at those optics.
Yep.
There's
another comment that maybe Punk would cost Seth the title so that he can face Drew for the title when he comes back. That's an interesting one as well.
Yeah.
I just one thing about Drew or about Damian Priest, I don't want to see him fail. But if he is going to fail, he should fail like a babyface and not like a heel. And what I mean is he should challenge Drew and not cash in at the end of a match where Drew is like woozy or something. He should literally challenge And maybe it's at that, we already think it's going to be Punk and Drew if Punk is ready for that Clash at the Castle match. But let's say that Punk's not ready. Damian Priest in a cash in, and they
Yeah.
have just a great big man match. I think it'd be okay for him to lose that match, but I don't want him to lose like a goofball, and because that just kind of kills any momentum. I still think he's got to be turning babyface here sometime soon. So that'll be interesting. But yeah, that's a hard one to book. What to do with Damian Priest is pretty hard.
I hope something good. He was on fire after Backlash last year, and they gave him that briefcase, and he cooled off. And that's like the curse of that stupid briefcase. Someone gets really hot, you give them the briefcase, and then they cool off tremendously.
The Bad Bunny stuff with Priest was awesome.
Yeah, that was. My kids love it. Like, my kids love Bad Bunny. So we'll put that match on. And then for my wife, she's a proud Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
Italian Puerto Rican. So she's like, this is freaking great to watch. And I do my terrible Bad Bunny impersonation. I go, oi, oi. And that's it. And I'm done.
Oh, man. All right. Io Sky and Bailey. I'll kick this one off because this is one of those things. Now, I feel this way about a lot of AEW stuff, like Swerve Scott. Like, I thought Swerve Scott last year, we're talking October, November, December, was like on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And now here we are in April, and he's about to get his title shot. And I don't think he's as hot as he was back then, because sometimes it's kind of hard to sustain, right? And I feel the same thing about Bailey. I feel like the wrestling audience was ready for Bailey to turn on Damage Control about 3 weeks before she did. And then when she finally turned, they were like, okay, moving on, next thing. Because I don't feel almost anything for this match right now.
I did for a while. I felt it for a while, and then everything else took precedence, and I think that's sometimes unfortunate. It's not. I don't think it was any of their fault. I think Bailey did great business in that beginning of that feud when she started. She was like, "I know what you guys have been saying behind my back."
It was awesome.
It just got lost, and I think they're gonna have a great match. I'm still very positive that it's gonna be a fantastic match.
I hope so. They deserve it. She deserves it. But it's so hard because, like you mentioned earlier, you're trying to get all of these matches on this show. Everyone wants to be a part of this show. But sometimes, like, being a bigger match on the next show actually puts you in a little bit better position because the focus is on you. And plus, post WrestleMania is kind of hard because you put everything into WrestleMania and then you go, okay, now we got to start all over again. So yeah, I hope so. I hope they actually create something out of this for Bailey to keep it moving. So
we got another super chat if you wanted to.
Yeah, let's do it. Rent Optional has an answer to our question, at least as far as they are concerned. Rock and Roman win the tag match. Bloodline rules.
Okay.
Glass breaks. Austin comes in for the save at the end of night 2. Stuns Rock and Reigns, and Cody wins.
Yeah, bring Cena in too. Cena will come in also and help. I think that would be. I would be thrilled. I would be thrilled because you're already adding the shenanigans, right? And again, goes back to what you were saying. Seth eats the pin. He's already banged up and destroyed for Drew. Drew is able to, and they'll probably do a quick match. I don't think they're going to go 25 minutes with Drew and Seth.
You think it's going to be quick, huh?
I think they could do. I mean, they don't have to go. You have a way out of here to protect this guy that was banged up. You have that opportunity. I would be fine. They do a quick match. He loses. Drew wins. He still says, you caught me on a bad night. You continue that program. And then now maybe it's a triple threat. Oh, you know what? Maybe that's the match. That's a triple threat. You keep everybody healthy like that.
Cadillac Carson also said, bring in Big Rikishi.
Oh, yeah. Stink face. I want The Rock to do a stink face. That's what he's going to
do. Oh, man. All right. Let's move on. We have the match you wanted to talk about, LA Knight against AJ Styles.
Okay. I want to talk about this because I very much like LA Knight. I love his promos. I don't have this thing where people, a lot of people find it negative that he sounds like The Rock and he sounds like he's doing pro wrestling. That's wrestling. People borrow. People change, and The Rock borrowed from someone else. It's an old school wrestling promo. This man looks at the camera and he starts yelling at you, which I love. He cooled off a little bit. I was about this angle. AJ looks like $1 million, first of all. He's so freaking jacked. So jacked. But what sold me on this, I saw it on TikTok, okay? I love the body cam videos.
There we go.
Okay? You know, dude, I'm telling you, and this is the mastery of WWE. This is what they do. When you're firing on all cylinders, you're really firing on all cylinders. They've tapped into a youthful demo. What they did, you know how LA Knight got arrested 2 weeks ago?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't see the arrest video, okay? I didn't see that footage. I missed it. I saw the body cam footage on TikTok. So again, it's 9:16, right? Because it's vertical.
Yep.
And it looked like an actual, because I love those body cam videos. I sit there and I watch it my entire train ride to Manhattan. 30 minutes. I'm watching body cam videos of fools getting arrested. It's the best. The best. Especially if it's like a high-speed chase. They filmed it. I thought it was real, dude. I watched this thing, and I'm like, look at these drunk idiots fighting on the lawn. And it has the Axiom, you know, like the body cam footage, like details on the corner with the date and the model of the body cam. They shot it on the actual body cam. It looked so real. It took me like a half a second too long to realize it was LA Knight and AJ fighting. AJ was so convincing. They're fighting on the lawn. I thought they did. And I'm like, oh my God, it caught me. It got me interested. I shared the video with people, right? I'm into this match now.
Okay, I'm glad you are.
You're not.
Because I'm not. I'm absolutely not interested. But it's
maybe
not,
you should have seen that body cam video.
It's not the LA Knight side of things. It's the AJ Styles side of things. I'm just out on AJ personally. But you know what? The most sort of subtly funny thing that Dave does on Wrestling Observer Radio is he'll say LA Knight's name, and then he'll just go, yeah, you know, and AJ Styles versus LA Knight, yeah, and then he'll just move on. But he always says yeah after LA Knight.
Yeah,
it's like subtle Dave humor thing that cracks me up. I like LA Knight way more now than I did before. I think he's hurt a little bit by just being overshadowed by a lot of the big stuff. But hell, like he's, you know, look at where he was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago versus where he is now. He worked himself up all the way to being in a, a decently high match on WrestleMania. So good for him. I don't know. I think AJ Styles may have gotten a memo that Vince was bringing back the WBF, and he thought that was going to be the post wrestling career for him.
Listen,
but that dude is jacked beyond.
You know, anything. How old is he now? He's in his mid 40s.
Yeah,
you know, a little TRT goes a real long way.
It does.
I'm speaking from experience.
Is that why you went sleeveless today?
Ready? There you go. Hold on. Oh, I can't do it.
There
you go. You know what this is? Just push-ups every morning. 50 push-ups. That's it.
Hey man. See, if I was to do that, my elbows are so jacked. It's not.
I'll squeeze. You gotta put some WD-40 on them,
dude. I have like the tight elbow braces for when I lift weights.
Oh man, I know the feeling.
I have this ice sleeve for my elbow as well. Just to whenever because I know I'm like,
mine is
okay.
my knees. My knees are.
Well, I have both because I have arthritis in both of my knees, and so I have the ice up for the knees, the ice for the elbows. It's getting old, man. It's not great. All right, let's finish up the WrestleMania stuff, and we'll probably stay a little extra for those watching live to talk about CM Punk, Logan Paul, Randy Orton, and Kevin Owens.
It's cold to me. Very cold.
Okay, good. I'm glad you said that, because when it was Logan Paul versus Kevin Owens or Logan Paul versus Randy Orton, I was kind of into it.
Me too.
And then they made it a three-way, and I was like, I don't like this. Why does it have to be a three-way? That's why. I'm definitely lukewarm on it.
I am. AJ's going to be 47 in a couple months.
Woo, doggy.
Dude looks like $1 million. Whatever he's doing, he should do it and keep it up and do more of it. I want him to get gigantic.
As long as he's doing it safe, then all good.
No. I want him going old school. I want AJ Styles, old 5'10". I want him to be 275 pounds.
No neck. Putski. You want him to look like Ivan Putski.
Ivan Putski, yeah.
Like, I used to think, like, when I was watching those old WWE videos, I was like, I wonder if somebody pokes him, he just explodes like a balloon, like he just pops.
AJ's turning into Rusev.
Yeah, oh my god, mini Rusev.
Yeah.
Imagine if they had the tag team, AJ and Rusev together.
Oh my god!
I would be into that. I would definitely do that. All right, we'll skip some of this other stuff, and then it's Roman and Cody, and I'm sure you're into that one.
Of course, yeah. Am I wrong? Okay, am I wrong that I want to see Cody lose just to see what happens?
That's hilarious.
Because he's at 1307, right? And Hogan is like 1400. He just needs like another 120 days to beat Hogan's record.
The internet may die. The pro wrestling
will die.
Pro wrestling Twitter may
and I like the anarchy sometimes. Like, listen, it has to be Cody's moment because he will not. Never say never, but man, how do you come back from that, right? If you lose this,
yeah,
and we said that
longest story to ever finish, man.
Dude, last year we sat down, we did this show, and I remember both of us saying, if he doesn't win, the momentum will get sucked right out of it, and it's going to hurt everybody.
Yeah, we were wrong.
And we were wrong. And listen, of course we were wrong, because we're pre-programmed to think a certain way when it comes to wrestling. We all are, especially if you follow it. And you follow the pattern, and you kind of had these expectations. Him not winning really... it's funny because when my son went to him, he's like, my dad said you're going to win the title. When I saw him at the Garden, he gave like a, face to my son because he was like so hyped that he's going to win. He has to win this one.
I think so.
I don't know how. I'm sure it's going to be some crazy ending to protect everybody, and everybody looks good. Austin comes in, messes with The Rock. Maybe The Rock bumps into Roman and costs him. Maybe the whole plan was to cost them. I think we're out of that. We got to go backwards. I don't think Roman, The Rock being on, the plan was to cost Roman the title. I don't think that's going to cut it now after the beating that they put on Cody.
Yeah,
right. It's ridiculous. Yes. But listen, there's things have been done, and these guys are very creative, and the story has been intriguing. I'm really curious without, and I don't even want to know. I want to experience it and see what happens. But I'm really curious how they do this. But Cody needs to win. Randy in our chat, Roman needs 164 days to beat the record.
Yep.
So
I mean, that would what get us through 6 more months. So we're talking about October. We're talking about
September,
Netflix, or not
September.
September. Okay.
No, we're talking about when they're off. Raw's off TV, and we have no idea where they're going.
Yeah, maybe that's what happens. Is he goes all the way until then, and then they have a fake tournament, like how when Pat Patterson won the Intercontinental Championship in Rio de Janeiro, which didn't happen. So maybe The Rock loses it in Rio de Janeiro in the dark time. This was my favorite. I'm just going to throw this up really quickly, though. Cody is going to get powdered in the eyes, and Hogan's going to run into the ring and challenge Roman and win the strap, brother.
He's going to do one of these? He's going to tell Hogan to do one of these? Remember that?
Yes. Yeah. Those.
Where's Jimmy Hart?
All right, let's move on to the CM Punk thing. We won't spend too much time on it, but I'm fascinated. Because I was entertained. Like I had crazy mixed feelings because I was super entertained because he's such a good promo, and that's sort of how I saw the interview. Ariel is more TV show host than journalist on that show, and Punk was like cutting a pro wrestling promo with his version of half truths, and I sort of feel like he's in an echo chamber where he doesn't really get any real feedback, and he just kind of keeps people around that tell him what he wants to hear so he doesn't, so that he can deal with it emotionally. That's kind of what it sounded like to me.
Helwani,
But
that WWE propagandist.
well, okay, I will say
I'm joking. I'm joking.
No. Here's
I
the
think
one
Ariel's
thing.
fantastic.
Ariel's great. The one thing I had a problem with though, when he made that remark, and what did he call Dave? Like a 5-star goof or something like
Yeah.
that. Dave, I don't know how much Dave helped Ariel in the beginning, but Dave has always given credit to Ariel.
Wait, it was Ariel that called him a 5-star goof?
No,
and
it was Punk.
Yeah.
Ariel needed to say something at that moment to be like,
listen,
okay,
and we all know. I mean, listen, as well as I do, how many of those guys, okay, that have buried Dave, kissed his ass for all those years, constantly, called him for tips, wanting to be in the Observer, asking if he watched the match, asking if, and I'm not saying that Punk did this, right? I don't know. You know what? Punk has called Dave many times.
Okay,
many
Dave,
times.
Did you hear Wrestling Observer Radio today?
I did. So
Dave said on the air that CM Punk reached out to him because he needed the lay of the land on the television ratings, because he didn't really follow that, and that was not really his job when he was in WWF, I'm assuming. So he needed a little education on it. So he did reach out to Dave. So I'm so happy that Dave mentioned that, because, I guess he doesn't consider Punk a source because Punk wasn't giving him information. So you don't want to alienate your source. And it was just Punk reaching out for help, I assume. And Dave was going to help him because Dave has helped countless number of wrestlers with stuff like this. So much so that back in the day, he and The Rock used to constantly talk business, like I've mentioned before. So that part, I was happy that Dave mentioned that, and Brian also mentioning some of the lies and where Punk was wrong. They could stick up for themselves, but ultimately that they were not the biggest part of that story. It was Tony Khan and CM Punk and Jack Perry.
Yeah, and listen, I'm just going based on information that I know. I'm sure there's so much more that I don't know and will never know, and I'm sure Dave knows stuff that I don't know. Everybody talked when this happened. Dave never, and I could say this from knowing, Dave never put out information for anybody in that sense, the way that Punk is alluding to, right? That's not what he does. But Punk does have a lot of key points that I've heard complaints from a lot of people there. It was an experiment that failed, and it only failed because you didn't have the structure in place to make it not work.
Mm-hmm.
I think now they've learned their lesson. That's why they're rebuilding their entire C level of executives. Now you have multiple executives on that level. Tony's not the guy making all the final I mean, obviously he makes the final decision, but he's not the guy deciding a lot of these things. You need other fall guys and not Tony. And, what did he say? Tony doesn't want to make money. He's a nice guy. He's not a business guy. Tony
he said he's not running a business.
He's not running a business. Okay. So then what is he running? His philosophy is different than Punk's. Or maybe it's not. Maybe it's very in line, and Punk is just annoyed. Listen, the way that Punk put it out, that story, it makes you very, if you don't know how it happened and when it happened, it makes Punk look like such a babyface.
That's what he's trying to do.
And he did a great job at that. And he did a tremendous job at that. But he does have a lot of key points. Why are you breaking this car? It's unnecessary. Fine. But my question here is, was he given some sort of authority over the talent and the TV show when he came back? Like, was he told, like, no, this is your TV. You're running it your way? Because if that's the case, then he is in the right.
I think he was, but here's my question about
crazy,
his version
of
his version of the car story, right? He didn't really care about the car and the rental place, because Tony could cut those guys a check if Tony wanted to destroy the car, and I'm assuming that's what he was going to do, right?
Yeah.
So that was not the story. he was more bothered that, you know, they wanted to do this thing that he didn't think was right, and in his own way, he was looking out for Jack, and that was the thing, and I'm sure, based on how the end result was, I'm sure the conversation wasn't as happy-go-lucky as
Yeah.
he described it, right? Because he went from happy-go-lucky discussion to Jack Perry doing something on TV to get back at him, to then choking Jack Perry. Like, the levels of, you know, where are where are the gaps? Like, where are we filling the gaps here on this? So I don't believe that was the only story. But
Yeah.
so
Well, Shivani asked him to get involved. You know, the reason why all this happened is because you didn't have the key people in place. You had this man, right? Already Punk came in. The last time people saw him before coming back was that he turned into a fucking werewolf at that scrum and went berserk like a lunatic. And you know what? Again,
which
I'm
he
not.
blamed on Brian and Dave, by the way. He blamed
Which he
that whole thing
I
escalated
know.
on Brian and Dave, and I know for sure that where Dave got that information from was not the Young Bucks. Like, I mean, I know that for sure because
I know that for a fact also. I know that totally for a
when it
fact.
happened,
It wasn't.
he told me. So
Yeah. I listen, did he feel again, I was not there. I cannot tell anybody if he was justified in his thoughts. I don't know. I'm sure to him he was, and I'm sure there is a lot of truth behind what he is saying. I have less of a problem with what he did and how he did it. My bigger problem is how do you allow this to continue, right, as a company? And how do you release this man knowing that he's already gone to WWE? How do you release him with no non-compete? You brought him back, you elevated him, you put him on a pedestal as this, and he buried your entire company, essentially. I mean, he made everybody look like a fool there. He beat up your top talent in the back or whatever happened. He fought with them, and then he went on TV and he said what he said. He brought his own title belt, diminishing yours, while you have this young up-and-coming guy with that belt. He no longer was the key focus. And what do? You let him go scot-free, and he goes to your competition during the hottest period in the last 2 decades. That was a huge mistake, and I'm again, no blame. I'm not pointing a finger to Tony here. I think he was in a bad position, and he had to make a decision. And I'm not one of these people that points a finger because I know how difficult dealing with wild horses is, and that's what wrestlers are. They're all wild horses. You can't control the way that it's not a 9 to 5. These guys are maniacs. You have to be, and I say that with tremendous respect. You have to think differently in order to do this for a career. It's not all just play fighting like people think. This is a painful, tumultuous, mentally straining industry. And I think Tony found out the hard way on how insane things could get. You know, I've said this, and I'm sorry, Garrett. I've said this all over and over again on how ridiculous it is that you have millionaires fighting like this, but they're not normal millionaires. These are, wired differently, men and women. These are different people, and they don't think on a corporate level to that extent. It's a very different type of thought process.
A lot of times when I talk to people about wrestling and they get holier than thou about the business on me, I have to remind them the business is based on a lie and a con.
Yeah.
That is the business that you are dealing with.
Two cons now. Oh,
right.
Different con.
Yeah,
Con.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
No, you're right. That says it so well. That's the whole key to it. It's deception. It's the whole thing is deception. And you know what? I'm not going to say to wrestler. This, you know what? I'll say it this way. That Jake Roberts moment, okay, in Beyond the Mat, right? Where he talks about Did we discuss this last week?
A couple weeks ago, I think.
Yeah, a couple weeks ago, right? You identify as that character because you have to. I mean, in the old days, you had to live it, right? But now you have to identify as that person because you want to be the best at that as possible because that's how you make your money. You can't just turn it off. I mean, some do, but the best don't. You know, CM Punk is on that doing that interview with Ariel Helwani, which is one of the best interviewers for MMA or, you know, in any of this. He's unbelievable.
And he's doing it in like one shot. Like it's not a produced interview where it's like cut, take. Like he's doing it Ariel is so fantastic at being able to get those questions out in the timing that he does.
He's so good and he does great research. But for Punk to sit there for 2 hours, and you know what? He's an effing character. He is selling something to you. He's telling you a story. He's telling you that AEW is it's not a viable business. So, hey, WBD, you guys would be fools to resign them to a mega deal because it's not viable. They want to put on great matches, but that's not going to make you money and that's not going to draw a gate. That's what he's telling you. And he's in character. He's selling whatever he's selling. And listen, at the end of the day, he's a company man, right? That's what you do.
Yep.
Who's paying your check? You go out there and listen, never say never about anything. A lot of people thought that he would never go there. Now he's going on TV and he's talking about how crappy AEW is and how great WWE is. I mean, at the end of the day, you do that for who pays you.
Yeah, he's a front runner, but at the same time, he's on the correct team right now. And you know, the one thing I wanted to go back, a lot of the problems in pro wrestling happen because a company is riding high and they fail to see that some of the reason why they're riding high is not necessarily because of what they're doing. It's just because they got hot. And so when you see problems or the possibility of problems, you kind of just go, we're hot. It's fine. We're moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then when you realize that you don't have the, like you said, the organization or the structure in place for the fail safe, and then things do happen like this because AEW was riding high. I mean, we were at the show in which I thought they were at their hottest when Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson show up at All In.
Yeah.
Or I'm sorry, All Out. And you and I are there just going like, wow, this thing feels really, really hot. This is like the best live show we've ever been to. But if at that moment, Tony Khan was like, okay, we're doing fantastically, but let's put some of this structure in place because we want to stay this hot. And I'm not saying that he didn't do any of that at all. We're just looking at it from the side that we can see, and it just looks like that is not what he did. Then maybe some of this stuff doesn't happen, but it's the same thing that happened to WCW. You can go back into those Observers and Figure 4 newsletters and read Brian and Dave going like, you know, they need to make new stars because the stars that they have, and they keep going back to the well, these guys are not doing well. And they're really making the younger or making all the rest of the wrestlers look terrible. So who's going to be left when these guys are gone? And so, you know, that's why the critics are there, right? They're writing about this stuff. Now, let's put the structure and everything in place and just hope for Tony Khan's sake that you could catch fire again. I'm not saying that they can't.
They probably will. Listen, it's this is how it is, you know? There's ebbs and flows to wrestling. WWE cools off, other things get hot. It's just it's nearly impossible to, and again, I'm not saying that AEW is in trouble in any capacity because cable viewership, they're always number 3 at least. For Dynamite, Collision, I think they were like number 20 something, but there's a lot of reasons for that with Collision. You know, he overextended. That's a possibility too. We saw what happened with Eric when they added Thunder. And I don't know if Eric was as strong of a business guy or as Tony. I don't know because Tony's still in his first couple of years. I think Tony's a better booker for sure. His wrestling knowledge is tremendous. You cool off, you get hot, but you need to create stars, like you said, and that's what they're attempting to do right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they have Will Ospreay and they have Swerve. MJF when he comes back and Kenny when he comes back. They could create a nice top tier of talent. But a lot of the things that they've tried, it's not like the edge, the Adam Copeland stuff, right? That started off cold, and it shouldn't have. Mercedes Moné. I thought her debut looked good. She was fine. They put her on commentary, and she didn't look great. I think it exposed her last week on commentary. So they're still learning these things. They're still trying things. This is not a WCW moment for them. And I say that, and I'm very honest. I'm very even about this stuff. I don't pick a side when it comes to wrestling. It's stupid. I find it really stupid when people turn around. They're like, this one sucks. This one. Listen, it's not for you. That's what it means. AEW is not for you, and that's great because you have other options. Same thing for WWE. WWE is not for you. You could watch something else, and that's unbelievable. But you gotta recognize when things are bad and things are good. You have to be honest. You can't just pick a side. And I think right now AEW not as hot as they were. They're still okay, but they're not where they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, and I think the one thing I would like to know if I was a fly on the wall in some of these AEW meetings is we know that Tony spent a lot of money on Ospreay, Monet, and Okada.
Oh, I forgot Okada's there, yeah.
And that's a bad thing, by the way.
I
that
know.
you already forgot.
Isn't that crazy? I named you your top tier. I didn't mention Okada. Yeah.
But I would love to know what he thinks of the return on investment so far. Now, these are 3-year, 5-year, whatever it is. So we're like, immediate gratification world right now. But I would imagine he's probably a little disappointed, at least in the TV ratings for some of this stuff, and in the movement, the business movement that they have been unable to do, especially coming off that high of the Sting retirement.
I'll ask you this: who honestly believed that Mercedes, right? And again, no knock at her, Mercedes would have the same interest level that CM Punk did.
Nobody
on his debut, right?
I asked Dave this on the day that they announced this big business show. We did Wrestling Observer Radio, or maybe it was that week, and I said, Dave, Mercedes Moné is not known in Boston like CM Punk is known in Chicago. You cannot run this same playbook. And his answer was, it worked the first time. That's why they're doing it. So that's your answer. Now, the hope is that you learn from that, right? And you go, okay, we can't do that anymore unless we have a CM Punk-like person coming back. Then maybe you run that playbook again. But now you can't run that playbook again because you've shown that it's not going to work the second time in that way.
Yeah.
So look, that's the whole thing of it, is learning from your mistakes. And I always say this with, just about everything. It's like, you have to think about it like an experiment. Like you're running this hypothesis, essentially. You don't know, in the pro wrestling world, you don't know exactly how it's going to work, right? But now you have data and you learn and you move on and you adjust, and now, and that kind of thing. So, but I would like to know, like, I wonder if he is disappointed in the return so far, because I think it should have done a little bit of a better job of setting the wrestling ecosystem on fire, but also the timing of it. We're in WrestleMania season, and it didn't even really blip on the radar based on what WWE, compared to what WWE is doing. So maybe the timing was off. If this is in the summer when we're not as hot with WrestleMania season, then maybe it does work a little bit better.
I don't know if it's the WrestleMania season. I think she's a great get for them, for sure, Mercedes. But
I love her. I think she's fantastic.
Return on investment, I don't know. Again, that number that was flying around about what they paid her, that is not accurate. I know that for a fact. But, Punk had a built-in merch already, right? He had the built-in merch. He had that immediate interest level. You wanted to see what he's going to do. You wanted to see what he was going to say. You were able to make so much money with that guy. Because for 7 years he was not on TV, and the way that he left WWE and the level of star that he was in the era that he was in. Also, the money that you were able to make and generate from merch. That one shirt, he's had that shirt for like 20 years.
Yeah, I know. It's awesome. All right. I know we stayed a little bit longer here, but I wanted to
Yeah.
get through the punk stuff. What I want to say is, you know, you and I get to do this, and we don't have to produce because our super producer is usually here.
Yeah.
There's one trick that I have, which is usually I have something to drink while I'm doing this because my throat goes dry. And producer John sort of knows exactly when I need to get the sip because once I need to go grab the drink, he immediately changes the
Goes to me.
camera to
Yeah,
you
he's
by himself,
fantastic. Yeah, he's the
like that
best.
stuff. And so I'm here thinking about, okay, I need to take this drink, but I don't have the producer to cut the. So I'm
Man,
like,
just
I
take the
have
drink.
as I'm taking the drink. But I wanted to ask you if you've had this before,
Oh, what is
which
it?
is bitters and soda. We're into the mocktail thing,
Yeah.
and so it's a brand called Hella, which makes me believe
Yes.
it's a Bay
I
Area
have that in my
brand.
fridge. I have that in my fridge right now.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love this stuff,
It's
bitters and
great
soda.
stuff.
It's awesome.
You know what I've gotten into? The ashwagandha
Yeah,
drinks, the
yes.
hop water. I
Yep,
love
I
hop
love hop
water.
water. Hop
There's
water's
another
awesome.
one that's magnesium.
Oh, I'm gonna have to find it. What is it?
It's a magnesium whatever. I gotta find the name. Hold on, I'll tell you right now. I'll tell you. Well, we'll continue the show and I'll find
No,
it. But
I'm about to
yeah,
shut it down, so I'll give all
okay,
my thanks and stuff while you
okay,
look for it. Okay,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so basically what I was gonna say is because I'm kind of quasi-producing this at the same time, I loved reading through all the comments, so thanks to everybody who joined in the live chat and who was watching live, really appreciate you. Even the folks who I was kind of having a little fun with. I'm just sort of teasing in there because there's some little bit of negativity, but hey, we got your eyeballs and that's what's important. So appreciate you as well. And we'll be back hopefully next week with Cameron Hawkins, who is really going to be, just doing so much WrestleMania weekend. So I can't wait to hear his stories
Yeah.
for next week if we bring him on. So yeah, did you find the drink?
Yeah, it's called Recess.
Oh yes, we have those too. My wife
Yeah, they're
gets those.
great. They're awesome.
Yeah, I love all that stuff. As long as it's like not too sugary.
Yeah, no. This like very little, just like a seltzer with a hint.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So we'll be back next week. I am gonna probably be off the following week. So just an FYI. Spring break for the kids, and we're gonna be traveling. So I probably won't be able to do that show, but we'll be back next week post Mania. May have to take a week off, and then just giving folks a heads up.
Yes.
All right. For Andrew Zarian, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.